Hey there, West in the world. It's Thursday, April the 23rd. This morning we were talking about the theme of global decolonization. I'm a little behind in this video series. It's been a busy couple of weeks and hard even to get over to my office. And of course, as you can see, I didn't make it over there today either. So rather than use my usual tripod arrangement, my expert cameraman is my son, Liam, who is doing our filming for us. Liam, say hi to everyone.
Hi!
So you'll notice a little more wiggling in the camera than usual, but I hope we'll still be able to get across the essential points. So what have we been talking about, and what are the things that you should be trying to remember? Well, today especially we focused in on this era of global decolonization that we said follows in the aftermath of World War II. When we talked about World War II, we said that the war was condemned by Western powers like the United States and Great Britain because fascism was an evil system that denied democratic rights to citizens and treated other kinds of people as inferior. And that this logic is then turned around by the peoples of the empire against rule by Britain and France and the other European colonial powers. Similarly, we said the Cold War changes this context, and that was our subject on Tuesday of this week, talking about the emergence of the ideological struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union to shape the world of the 20th century. Both of them are, at least nominally, opposed to colonial rule. And so in that sense, the Cold War era justifies this movement towards the end of European empires. We didn't try to sort of survey completely how this process unfolded, but rather talked about it in some broad brushstrokes with a few case studies in each instance. So we talked about the violent processes, the ones that are characterized by conflict in Palestine, in Algeria, and in Vietnam. And we talked about how each of those was influenced by different factors, the Holocaust and the legacies of anti-Semitism in Europe. We talked about the legacy of the Cold War in Vietnam, and the presence of colonial settlers in Algeria as complicating factors. We then said that there are also these negotiated processes of independence, and here the main examples that we looked at were India, which, despite the violence or the tensions between Hindu India and Muslim Pakistan, moved fairly steadily towards stable independence. Or the case of Ghana in sub-Saharan Africa in 1957. But in the midst of all of those things, we were also trying to sort of assess, well, what is the overall legacy of colonialism? And we highlighted a few particular themes: legacies of one-party rule, of economic vulnerability, of these internal divisions, such as in Rwanda. And then lastly, that sort of overarching idea of dependent relationships that are characterized as neo-colonial, that political independence turns out not to be quite the same thing as actual autonomy, the ability to determine a state's own fortunes. That theme will in some ways stick with us as we move next week towards the end of the Cold War and the emergence of today's world. We'll get to all of that in our final days together next week. Have a good weekend, everybody. See you on Tuesday.